Hello, everybody. Well, I'm back in my car. Um, I do a lot of traveling, and so I do a lot of my podcasts from my car. Thank you very much for being here. Got some exciting and interesting things to tell you about this week. Um, I want to start off by, I guess, not shying away from the controversy of violence in the US at the moment. And it's interesting because I was not born in the US, and so I grew up with certain sets of moralities that my culture and my country instilled upon me. Um, there were religious influences, but basically, the sense of morality I have for myself now is based on my own ideas, my own ideals, and I've I am my own person with my own ideas about morality. And those of you that listen to me a lot will know that really my sense of morality is pretty simple. My sense of morality is to put peace above everything else. If we could put peace above politics, above war, above religion, above which is the best TV show, movies, sports team. If we could put peace first, then we would not be getting all of this violence. Um, and morality is subjective. So I'm not telling you that I'm right, but in my opinion, what would be wonderful is if we could strive for a peaceful planet. Now, we're not going to have a peaceful planet while people put their political views um, ahead of being peaceful. And so, I don't want to go into this in too much depth, but I will tell you that, in my opinion, I don't think it's right for one person to kill another person unless it's in immediate physical self-defense, like somebody's coming at you with a gun, for example, or a knife. To kill people because of things that they've said, I don't think personally that's putting peace above everything else. Um, I think there are some other things that we could do to put peace above everything else, and one of them, in my opinion, is to not allow civilians to own guns. Now, I know that I've just said two comments, one of which some people will say, well, he clearly belongs to this political party, and one of which people will say, no, he clearly belongs to this political party. I'm not a political person. Both of those comments are consistent with the idea of putting peace first, peace above everything else. Now, I do support defending oneself. I am actually a black belt in karate, and I have instructed karate. And I've even had situations where people have attacked me, and I have used violence in order to defend myself and those people whom I was with. And I think defending oneself in that immediate situation, in my opinion, that's fully justified. But going after people because of what they say or because we don't like them, we don't like their views, their policies, um, I, I personally don't agree with that. Now, morality is subjective, and I'm not telling you I'm right. I'm telling you that's my opinion. Um, but I think one thing we can do is we can look at our own opinions and ask ourselves, are all of our opinions consistent with each other? Because the idea that we are promoting guns and weaponry in a society, but we're also condemning violence in a society and shooting people with guns, well, that's inconsistent. Um, so I just, encourage people to be peaceful. That's all. Um, I I did used to be a science teacher, and when I was a science teacher, one of my students, a girl who was about 12, um, she was shot and killed by her father. And some of the students knew, most of them didn't. But the next day at school, it was an enviable job to stand up in front of a classroom full of about 50 students and tell them that their friend, and it was a fairly small school and everybody knew each other, and mostly people were friendly to each other, and she was a very friendly young woman, and she was very liked. I knew her very well, and I had to stand up in front of that classroom of children and say, she's dead. She was killed by her father. She was shot by her father. Now, if you can imagine the pain that was in that room at that time, how hard it was for me, how hard it was for the children to hear that, to hear that a parent shot their child and somebody they knew. There's so much wrong with that. And I guess I would ask you maybe to just tune in a little bit to what that situation must have felt like and been like for everybody involved, and especially the girl that was killed and her family. Um, and this is a cost. This is a cost that people who support gun ownership in the US are um, are paying, and they're supporting the payment of that and hundreds of cases like that throughout the US every year. So that's my little bit. And again, I apologize if that comes across as being a political thing. I don't consider myself to be a political person. In England, it would be like, oh well, obviously, if people have guns, they're going to shoot each other. But people are slaves to um, their conditioning in the countries that they were raised, and I encourage people not to be slaves to conditioning, but to think for yourself and to feel for yourself and to rise above all of the other considerations and put peace first. Put peace first. It is not a good thing. It's not something that I support to kill people. Okay, so that's my little bit on that subject. I apologize if I've offended anybody. It's okay for you to not agree with me. It's okay for you to have your own opinion. I just think we should be able to have differences of opinion without killing each other or being violent. Okay, so in today's show, I want to talk about setting up meetings, in-person meetings with non-human entities. There are 5 main species of alien. I'm going to change that sentence. 5 main categories of aliens, because some of these categories of aliens have subspecies. 5 main categories of aliens that have a physical and commonly observed presence on, in, around the planet Earth. Those categories of aliens are greys, ebons, reptilians, mantis beings, and Nordic beings, including tall whites. Now, I know quite a lot about those 5 different categories. I know a lot of beings who are in those categories. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those different beings, and then I'm going to move on to how could you meet them in person. This week, I'm setting people up on basically coffee. I don't know if I can use the word date for a non-romantic meeting. Coffee dates or coffee meetings with people in my group. I just received a message just before I started broadcasting here that one of my friends is on her way now to her meeting with a non-human entity, hopefully. So before I tell you about how we are setting up in-person meetings with these beings and how you could too, I'm going to tell you I'm going to talk about those different types of beings so that you can understand them a little bit before you decide whether or not you want to meet up with them. The first of those types of beings that I was talking about are the greys. Now, there are short greys, sort of the worker bees, and there are the taller greys, which are the masters or the beings that are in charge. And some of them are grayish in color, some of them are more pinkish. There's a few different colorations, but they're all tall with large heads, no hair, almond-shaped eyes, alien-looking aliens, and those are the greys. Now, the greys are the least, in my experience, they're the least friendly of those 5 species, the least approachable. When I guide people through meditations and astral projections to different beings, when we try to approach greys, usually what happens is they sort of turn around and look at us like, why are you here? You should not be here. This is not okay. We don't welcome this. They don't shoot at us or like attack us or anything. They just back away. And sometimes we feel like a repelling force pushing us away. So they're not really interested in conversation. Now, the masters, I don't know if that's the right word to call them, the masters of the smaller greys, the tall greys, the greys that are in charge, they're a bit more willing to listen. If we approach them, they, in a fairly unemotional way, will turn and listen to what we have to say. We don't have much conversation with them, but they do listen to us. And when we go and communicate with them, the reason usually we're communicating with those taller greys is to try and help them to understand our perspective when it comes to being taken or abducted against our, well, let's say without our prior permission. Those of you that watch my shows will know that I'm not a fan of imposing oneself upon anybody, and asking permission for anything significant is something that I promote and I try to live my life by. So we go to them and we let them know, hey, listen, you taking people without their permission for us is morally unacceptable. Now, they kind of turn around and listen. They don't have that perspective any more than a person who eats ice cream or has cheese on their pizza, any more than they probably feel sympathetic to the cows that were forcibly impregnated and then had their babies taken away from them, and then were stuck in a program of being milked for several months until their milk is running dry when they go through the whole process again. But if a cow could turn to us and talk to us and communicate with us, I'm sure the cow would not be saying, oh, I'm happy that you're doing this to me. I'm happy that you stole my baby from me. I'm sure the cow would be saying, I don't like this. I don't consider this to be moral. So it's that kind of situation when human beings go to the tall greys and try and tell them, hey, I don't like this. I don't think this is right. So, what are the two things I'm saying here? I suppose if we're trying not to be hypocritical, maybe we should consider being nicer to cows. Maybe we should consider, try oat milk or rice milk or soy milk, or there's lots of other different. I like almond and cashew milk with chocolate flavor. That's one of my favorites, and I can comfortably drink that, knowing that I haven't inflicted pain upon any cows. You see, I'm a man of peace. I'm coming back to this peaceful thing. I don't like anything that is forcing or aggressive or violent. And killing animals and raising them for their milk is not really a peaceful thing. So anyway, those are the greys, the tall greys, and we do occasionally have dialogue with them. And I actually have in my group lots of human volunteers who would love to openly participate in the reproductive programs of the greys and any other of the species out there, if it were done with their permission, and if it were done in a way that they are allowed to keep their memories. So that's the greys. Now, I'm not setting up meetings with greys. That's not the kind of thing they do. But let's look at the other four species, because the other four species, well, yeah, they're different, and it's quite possible that that meeting up with them in person is something that they would be willing to do. Let's move on to the ebens. The ebens are actually grey-like in appearance. They're also small or short, skinny. They look like the classic aliens with the large heads and no hair and big almond-shaped eyes. So greys and ebens are comparable in appearance, but the ebens are very friendly. It was the ebens, almost certainly, who were piloting the craft that crashed in 1947 in Roswell. Two craft that crashed in different locations there. That was the ebens. And one of the ebens was recovered alive, and the craft were recovered. And that eben apparently, allegedly, was sorry, I just saw something in the window, and I thought, well, that's interesting, but I'm not very good at multitasking, so I got distracted. The ebens allegedly helped the U.S. Air Force military from 1947 to about 1952, when the being that they called EBA 1 died, but then they voluntarily replaced EBA 1 with EBA 2, another eben, and they were cooperative, and they are cooperative, and they're friendly, and there are even reports. And again, this is impossible for me to verify that this is true, but there are reports from people who worked in the military in those areas, in Area 51, special Air Force intelligence officers, OSI agents, let's see, Office of Special Investigations. People like Richard Doty, who have come forwards and said that there was even an exchange program, I think it was in the 60s, where some humans got invited to travel to their planet, which they say is in the Zeta Reticuli star system, a planet which we're calling Serpo. And there was an exchange, and human beings, were there on their planet for about 13 years, living with the ebens, learning about them. And I don't know if any of that's true. That's what people are coming forwards and saying, whistleblowers. Whether they're being honest or not, I don't know. But I have connected with ebens. a couple of years ago during a Zoom meeting, um, where I had a group of human beings all meditating and astrally projecting to, it was actually the Galactic Council, an Eben showed up. And we asked, what species are you? Eben. And this Eben showed us visions of our future, the future of the planet Earth. And their comparable visions to those that have been shown to people, thousands of people around the planet for many decades, of a future world that is environmentally damaged, devastated, on fire. And they're doing that because they want to help us. They want us to, I mean, in their minds, they're thinking if they can show us what's going to happen before it happens, then maybe we'll decide to act differently to prevent it from happening. But human beings are not that wise. We're like, yeah, no, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Even if it destroys our species, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. That's what human beings are. But anyway, we asked this Eben, what is your name? I'm going to take a sip of water here. We asked the Eben, what is your name? And he said, well, we don't have names that you could understand or pronounce, but we give each other names if we're going to interact with you, human beings. So I said, okay, well, what is your name that you've assigned yourself so that you can interact with us? And this Eben said, Jean-Luc. I thought, well, that's an interesting name for an Eben to choose. And I asked the Eben, why did you choose that name? And he said, well, I like Captain Jean-Luc Picard. It's like, okay, so they watch Star Trek. So that was very interesting. And, I've said this before, but when one person psychically perceives something like that, then, yeah, it's not proof. Even to the person that's perceiving it, it could be their imagination. Even the best psychics I've discovered sometimes find it hard to separate reality from imagination on a psychic level. But when you're in a Zoom meeting and more than one person is perceiving exactly the same thing, then you've got, the probability becomes extremely low that that it's not real what you're perceiving. And that was the situation we had. And an additional proof occurred about 3 months later when I hosted a contact event, an in-person contact event in Blue Springs, Missouri. So there we are at nighttime, Blue Springs, Missouri, out somewhere close to a lake, in a wooded area. And I used to live in that area, and I have a lot of friends out there, and sometimes I would go to paranormal conventions. And so I actually have a lot of professional psychic friends, professional mediums, professional energy healers. And some of them were intrigued by what I was doing. So they came out and thought, let's give this a shot, trying to connect in peace with aliens. And so they came out. And so we had great psychic talent there that night. And we started to feel alien energies coming in, and then the psychics turned and saw a craft, basically a flying saucer, come and land about 30 feet away from us, just behind some trees. And they saw, and this is more than one person seeing this, 5 beings, short alien beings, get out and walk towards us. One of them stepped forwards, and she was a female, the captain of the ship. And we had a conversation with her, and we asked, what species are you? And she said, Eben. and we asked her what her name was. And I'm going to cut a long story short because there's a few different times we connected with the Ebens. But this female Eben basically said her name was Deanna. And when we asked Deanna, how did you get your name? She said, Jean-Luc gave it to me. And that was right there, logical confirmation that our experiences with those two Ebens was real, because there was information traveling between, well, there was information given to us that was consistent, that was given to two different groups of people in two different locations. One set of people online, and one set of people on the ground in different states. And so that was a logical confirmation that our experiences with the Ebens were real. And we actually said to, when we were talking to Deanna, she said that her name is connected or related to Jean-Luc's name. And it was a few seconds before we realized what that meant. And then we realized Counselor Deanna Troi, also from Star Trek The Next Generation. Captain Picard's, one of Captain Picard's crew or officers, who was the counselor, the telepathic counselor on the Starship Enterprise D. So that was very interesting and more logical confirmation. So we have since been working with the Ebens. We have asked them if there's anything that we can do for them, if we can help them, and they responded by basically giving us one or two things to do. And I'm going to choose in this public setting here not to go into the specifics. I can tell you that it's nothing illegal, and I can tell you that it doesn't go against any of my convictions about putting peace first. But we are working with them. Those are the Ebens. Then we've got three other species that have physical presences, physical bodies around the Earth. We've got the mantis beings, the reptilians, and the tall whites. Well, let's look at tall whites quickly. I a couple of weeks ago gave a whole show on the subject of tall whites. Tall whites, or Nordic-looking species, it's interesting. The military has I'm not sure what the right terminology is, classified them as being a danger or a threat, classified them as being dangerous or hostile, because of claimed incidents where they've had conflict between Nordic species and humans. However, simultaneously, they do have an agreement whereby the tall whites can live in the ranges northwest of Las Vegas. So they do have agreements, and they do live peacefully out there. And I have personally gone out there and camped out there. And if you look at our Tall Whites episode, there's a lot in there. But in summary, we have been able to confirm that they are there. They invited us to go and camp out there in the desert with them, and we did. And we talked to them, in particular one called George, and we've talked to them online. I've seen their vessels and videoed their vessels twice. And when we do online astral projections to that general area, sometimes we're met by tall whites astrally. and they assist us, they help us, they guide us, and they protect us. When I tour um, around, meeting up with people, sometimes dangerous people, a tall white, a reptilian, and an Eban. The last time I toured, they were with me. They were um, my protection team. That's the way it's been described by psychics in the past. They were my protection team. So tall whites are beings that we can have face-to-face interactions with. Now, it is people claim, a number of people have claimed that tall whites, because they look so nearly human, that they can walk around populated areas and pass for being human. And Las Vegas is a place that a few people have said that sometimes they do go into Las Vegas and walk around and do stuff, go shopping. And I have a friend who lives in Vegas, who is psychic and has been in stores and seen people who are tall and white and very, very pale, not long pale hair, kind of slim and tall, and thought that they probably weren't human. And because they have psychic abilities, they've been able to look at these people in a psychic way and say to them psychically, telepathically, "You're not human, are you?" And when my friend has said that to them, she's had experiences where they've turned around in shock that somebody's recognized that they're not human and sort of quickly tried to leave the store as soon as possible before they basically get caught. So there are stories like that I find to be credible stories. And so that opens up the possibility for regular people like you and me. I don't know, I'm assuming you're a regular person. Meeting up with them in person in a public place and having a conversation. And again, I'm going to get around again to how can we facilitate that? How can we make that happen? So then there are the last two species, and those are the reptilians and the mantis beings. So let's look at the reptilians first. I have watched documentaries that go into great detail. No, they don't go into great detail. They claim that reptilians are controlling politicians and world leaders and keeping humanity down, making us do bad things, controlling energy fields around the planet that are preventing us from being as wise as we should be. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's nonsense. When I look at regular human beings, I don't need to look very far at all to see human beings themselves, without any kind of assistance from anybody else, saying and doing things that are violent, hostile, unwise, unfriendly, discriminatory, etc. And that is what human beings are. Not all human beings. I know some nice human beings, and I know some people who have changed into being nicer, more peaceful human beings over the years when they learn things. But it can be very, I suppose, psychologically comforting to think that you're actually a good person, but somebody else is making you be bad. That humanity is actually a good, peaceful, benevolent species, but it's reptilians' fault that all the wars are going on, that the reptilians are causing all of the problems around the planet. It's all their fault. Let's blame somebody else for our inadequacies. In my time on this planet, I have interacted with enough human beings to know that many human beings are not peaceful, are not wise, and they're not reptilians. They're regular human beings who who judge others for being different, for having different opinions, for doing things that they disagree with in their subjective um, sets of morality, and then they respond in violent ways, hostile ways, verbally violent, textually violent, or sometimes physically violent or aggressive. So human beings blaming reptilians for the violence and the problems of humanity, I think that's it's not laughable because it's not funny, but it's unwise and it's untrue. It's not real. Um, so a lot of people feel that reptilians are bad, and honestly, it's largely lookism. When we look at an animal or a person, if it doesn't look nice, something within us, we can judge it negatively. I mean, what's the difference between a rat and a squirrel? They're both rodents that look almost identical, but one's got a cute fluffy tail and one's got a skinny um, sort of thin tail with no hair. And somehow one looks really cute and lovely to people, and the other looks like disgusting and horrible and nasty. And we treat them completely differently. And it's the same with cows and horses. We treat one of them well, one of them not well. They look very, very similar to each other. And it's the same with human beings. You just need to look a little bit different, slightly different color skin, and look at how people react. So, um, so let's not judge another species for our faults. Um, Reptilians, I didn't have a first-hand encounter with reptilians. Um, Going back about 5 years, I didn't. But one of my friends, again in Las Vegas, did. They were in a situation where my friend is an artist, and she painted pictures. And she had the painted pictures in her home, and an old lady was interested in my friend's pictures, and so the old lady came round to the house to look at some of the pictures. And when she was there, my friend could tell this is not a human being. And in her mind, she said, "You're not human, are you? What are you?" And the old lady looked at her and turned her head to the side like this. And as she turned her head to the side, it's like her disguise went away, and the lady was reptilian. What that means is that she had the head of basically like a lizard or a velociraptor, scaly skin, reptile eyes, and she held her head to the side like this for about 20, 30 seconds. And my friend was just shocked, didn't know what to say or do. And then the old lady turned her head back and morphed back into having a human visage. And and then they kind of looked at each other. There were no more words spoken, and the old lady just left. And um, looking back at that incident, my friend thinks that the reptilian was basically accommodating my friend's request. My friend was saying, "Who are you? What are you?" And the old lady, the reptilian, showed her what she is, which is a reptilian. It was not an aggressive act, and the fact that she turned her head to the side also indicates that it was not an aggressive act. You don't turn your head to the side or bow your head or look away from somebody if your intention is to hurt that person. It's an act of making yourself less of a threat. if you walking down the street and somebody suspicious is walking towards you, if that person is looking at you in the eyes, as opposed to looking around at the trees or looking off to the side, then they're far more likely to be a threat if they're looking directly at you. Um, it's hostility, and this reptilian was not being hostile. Had a reptilian velociraptor face been staring my friend directly, my friend, I'm sure, would have been a lot more scared and panicked. And yeah, it might not have been, it would have been a lot worse of a situation for her, I think. And I've known the reptilians do that psychically, astrally at events. Sometimes they've shown up at events psychically right next to somebody. And like a friend of mine, Richard, in close to Las Vegas, and he was immediately scared. And in response, the reptilian backed away and sort of became a little out of focus. And it was a direct response because that reptilian did not want to scare my friend. So anyway, I decided, based on stories like this that I had heard about reptilians, that maybe reptilians were friendly, and that all of this judging of them negatively wasn't justified. So a few years ago, I hosted an in-person event in Las Vegas, in a Las Vegas park, where I invited both humans and reptilians to come along. Reptilians have this ability to appear human, whether it's a natural ability, some kind of a technological camouflage or mind control. I don't know, but they have that ability. And we had, I don't know, about 20 people come along to this event, and we all gave each other opportunities to look at each other and to change. Now, to my knowledge, nobody changed in a visible way. There was one or two people there that we weren't quite sure about, maybe, but nothing verifiable. But then 2 weeks later, at a contact event in Texas, I suddenly felt the presence of one or more beings coming in. I felt them right next to me. I felt them actually touching me. And I turned to the humans present and I said, does anybody notice anybody around me? And the psychic lady said, yes, a reptilian just arrived right next to you. And I turned to the reptilian and I said, you're welcome here. You are among friends. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I hosted an event in Las Vegas in which we reached out in friendship to you. And the reptilian responded back, yes, we know. That's why we're here. We're here to support you and protect you. We like what you're doing. What am I doing? I'm putting peace at the top of my list of priorities. I'm not judging. I'm just simply being peaceful. And ever since then, we've had a relationship with reptilians. We had a reptilian called Icard show up and give healing to somebody that was at one of my events, and they really felt, from arriving at the event feeling really, really terrible, they left feeling perfectly healthy and okay. We work with two twin sisters who are reptilian, Tishisha and Shishisha, and I'm not sure if they're on the Galactic Council or connected with the Galactic Council, but that's where we met them. So meeting up with reptilians in person is a real possibility, if they feel like they have a reason to do so. And the final species that has a physical presence around this planet is mantis beings. Now, there's different types of mantis being. I call them mantians instead of mantis beings. These mantians, there's probably different species, perhaps in a similar way that there's different species of praying mantis on this planet. And these mantians, they look kind of like they're insectoids. They kind of look like praying mantises. They have sort of the triangular praying mantis heads with the large eyes and the mandible mouths at the bottom. And praying mantises on this planet often have weird stuff going on with their heads, camouflage things going on. And I've heard accounts and I've seen, we've had praying mantises in our meetings that might have some kind of like crown type thing going on the back of their heads at the sides. And they don't have hands, they have more sort of like insect-like talons. I'm not sure what the right word is, hands. And they're old and they're wise. You know, praying mantises go back millions of years on this planet. Human beings only hundreds of thousands of years. And it could well be that when aliens arrived on the planet hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, very likely, and they're deciding which species are we going to genetically engineer and clone to create biological environment suits for ourselves, they picked praying mantises. And so they're a very old species, these mantians, old and wise and friendly. Now, I think if any of these species, I think if some of these species are attacked, they will attack back. If some of these species are threatened, they will respond to that in a violent way. I've heard of situations with reptilians and with mantis beings being violent basically in response to hostility. But when you're friendly to them, they're friendly to you. I guess it's kind of like most human beings too. So I'm not sure if mantis beings are able to have a physical presence on this planet. But this is what I've done this week. On Tuesday evening, in a Zoom meeting in my group, we gave invitations, open invitations, publicly live streaming out to the world, invitations to any non-human beings who are able to appear human, and any hybrid beings who appear human, to meet with us on certain days and in certain locations at certain times that were convenient, that were decided by the human beings in my meeting. So we went around the group and said, okay, I'm hoping to meet up with any non-human beings 7 p.m. on Friday in a Starbucks at this location. And we put out that invitation to them. We also did a meditation where we actually projected out to any of the beings that are out there and gave them that same invitation psychically. Now, I don't know if any of those beings will decide that they would like to come and meet us. And I don't know if one of them sits down next to us in the Starbucks on Friday at 7 p.m., I don't know if it would be immediately apparent whether this person was human or non-human. But we're going to give it a shot because I have proof that they are walking around, they are out there. There are non-human beings and hybrids that look human. And so I'm offering them an invitation. And we will wait to see if they decide that they want to take us up on that offer. Now, there were probably about 15 to 20 people in my meeting, in my Zoom meeting, where we gave out those invitations. And these people are around the country and even in different countries in the world. And so in the next few days, these people are going to be going to coffee shops and historic landmarks, places close to them that are convenient for them in safe public places where they might be joined by one or more of these beings. And then we're going to talk peace. We're not going to talk, give us guns, give us weapons, give us technology. That's not what this is about. We're not going to say, save us from ourselves, because we're too silly to save ourselves and to act appropriately. They can't save people from themselves. We're going to say, hey, do you want to be our friends? Can we talk about what that would involve? How do we bridge the gap between us? Let's get to know each other so we can be friends, so we can be friendly. If you would like to get involved in the things that I do outside of this podcast, then I invite you to join my group. And you can go to my group by typing in the link www.patreon.com/alien contact. Patreon.com/alien contact. There is a free membership option there. You can click on that. And if you click on that and put in your email address, then you'll get notifications of all of my events, online events. I host one gig-free public open event every week, and you're welcome to attend those. The Zoom link will be there for you so that you can join my meetings. If you are really resonating with the things that I'm saying, if you like the idea of putting peace first, if you like the idea of being an ambassador for the human species in our interactions with these different beings, then I invite you to join tier 1 or tier 2 of my Patreon group. And then you will immediately be invited to participate in some amazing astral projections and in-person events in which we really connect with these beings in significant ways. Okay, well, that's really all I have to say. So I would like to say to all of you, I hope you all have a really enjoyable rest of your day. Oh my goodness. Sorry, somebody just came in, a non-human entity just came in so strong that I felt a big change in air pressure and got a big ringing in my ears. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you being here in support of what I'm doing. I wish you all peace, love, and well-being. Take care and goodbye for now.